So you've done it. You successfully bred your goldfish, and now you're looking at hundreds of tiny, delicate little fry. It's an amazing moment, but their survival in these first few days, it really hinges entirely on one single thing, their very first meal. So what in the world do you feed something that small? Let's break it down.
The answer, my friends, is baby brine shrimp. For so many experienced breeders, this isn't just an option, it is the only option. This stuff is called liquid gold for a reason. You know, it's often the single thing that makes the difference between a thriving batch of fry and, well, a complete failure. It's their ultimate first superfood.
Okay, so you might be thinking, why can't I just crush up some flake food? And it really comes down to a simple biological trigger. That constant, jerky, wiggling motion of live shrimp, it's like a dinner bell for fry. It just activates their primal instinct to hunt. Lifeless, processed foods, they just don't have that cue. And honestly, they're often ignored completely, which, for a newborn fish, can be totally disastrous.
All right, today we're going to walk through this whole process in 5 clear parts. We'll start with exactly why brine shrimp are the ultimate superfood. Then we'll get hands-on and cover how to set up your own hatchery with a really simple recipe. We'll go through the 24-hour hatch itself, then learn how to harvest that liquid gold, and we'll wrap it all up with some pro tips for success.
Let's dive right into Section 1, Fry's first superfood. Here, we're going to explore exactly what makes these freshly hatched brine shrimp so uniquely powerful for giving your fry the absolute best start in life.
So let's look at the key advantages here. First off, they are incredibly nutritious. See, when they first hatch, these little guys, called nauplii, they still have their rich yolk sac attached, and that thing is just packed with the fats and proteins that fry need for super fast growth. They're also the perfect size. We're talking 400 to 500 micrometers, small enough for even the tiniest little mouths. And because you're hatching them from sterile sister self, they are completely disease-free. Best of all, you can have a fresh batch ready to go, on demand, in about 24 hours. So convenient.
Okay, on to Section 2, your hatchery and recipe. This is where we get practical. And I want you to think of this less like some complicated science experiment and more like, well, like baking, but for your fish. We're going to turn you into your very own live food producer with just a few simple things.
And you do not need expensive lab equipment for this, believe me. In fact, one of the most effective and popular hatchery setups is just made from an upside-down 2-liter soda bottle. All you really need is that container, some basic non-iodized salt, the brine shrimp eggs, which are called cyst, and a simple little aquarium air pump with some tubing. That's it. It's incredibly accessible for any hobbyist.
All right, now this slide is the secret sauce. Seriously, getting these 4 things right is the entire key to a successful high-yield hatch every single time. You want a salinity between 1.018 and 1.022 specific gravity. Temperature needs to be consistently warm, think between 77 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. You need some gentle aeration, just enough to keep those cysts tumbling around. And finally, a constant light source. It actually helps trigger the hatch. You master this recipe, and you've mastered brine shrimp.
Now for the fun part, Section 3, the 24-hour hatch. This is where we put that recipe into action. And it's really amazing how quickly you can turn these dormant, almost sand-like cysts into a vibrant, wiggling cloud of live food.
The setup is just so straightforward. Step 1, mix your salt into some dechlorinated water until it's all dissolved. Step 2, sprinkle in your cysts. A 1/4 teaspoon per liter is a really good place to start. Step 3, get those bubbles going. You want a gentle rolling motion, not some kind of violent jacuzzi. And step 4, turn on the lights. Just aim a simple lamp at the hatchery, and that's it. You sit back and let nature take over.
Which brings us to Section 4, harvesting your liquid gold. This is the payoff, the final rewarding step. Now, the key here isn't just getting the shrimp out. It's about getting them out cleanly, without any of the unhatched eggs or empty shells. And luckily for us, biology gives us a super simple trick to do exactly that. Here's how it works. First, turn off the air pump and just let everything settle for about 10 minutes. You'll see the empty shells float to the top, and the heavy, unhatched cysts will sink to the bottom. Now here's the cool part. The live shrimp, the nauplii, they're phototactic. That just means they're attracted to light. So you shine a flashlight on the side of the container, and they'll all gather into this dense orange cloud. It makes it incredibly easy to just siphon them right out with a piece of airline tubing, leaving all the other gunk behind. So that's the ideal process. But of course, things can sometimes go sideways.
what do you do if you follow all the steps and you just end up with more unhatched eggs than live shrimp? You know, this is probably one of the biggest anxieties for beginners, so let's tackle it head on.
And welcome to our final section, Tips for Success. Think of this as the insider's guide. We're going to troubleshoot the most common problems and then look at a real pro-level technique that'll take your hatching game to the next level.
A low hatch rate almost always comes down to one of these three things. Number one culprit, old or poorly stored cysts. To keep them viable, you have to store your cysts in a sealed container in the fridge or even the freezer for long-term storage. The other two big issues go right back to our recipe. Either your salinity is off or your temperature is too low or it's fluctuating too much. Just double-check those parameters and I bet you'll see a massive improvement.
All right, you ready for a pro move? It's called decapsulation. Now, this is a more advanced technique where you actually use a mild bleach solution to dissolve the hard outer shell of the cysts before you even start hatching. And this gives you two huge benefits. It really boosts the hatch rate because the shrimp don't have to waste energy breaking free, and it completely eliminates the need to separate out the shells during harvest. For serious breeders, this is an absolute game changer.
So let's bring it all home. The main takeaway here is really simple. Fresh is always best. Hatching your own brine shrimp gives you a consistent, clean, and ridiculously nutritious food source that provides the absolute best start in life for your fry. And your reward? It's a tank full of active, healthy baby fish with those classic full, pinkish-orange bellies. That's the sign of success right there.
So there you have it. You've now got the key to mastering their first and most important meal. The only question is, what are you going to do next to make sure they thrive? Good luck and happy hatching!